The 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is not having a great season in 2024. The new car that was built with his directions lacks performance and is underwhelming, while the competition did take a big step forwards. In the 4th fastest car, finishes around P8 are pretty much what can be achieved, and P7 if you beat your teammate. But Hamilton isn't beating his teammate, and that's why one of his biggest weaknesses is raising its ugly head again. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Lewis Hamilton stated after testing was done in February that the car felt better than it did the 2 seasons before, which he described as massively encouraging for the team. So that got the expectations up a bit for his loyal fans. The results that followed were a P7 in Bahrain, a P9 in Saudi, a DNF in Australia, a P9 in Japan, a P9 in China, a P7 in Miami, a P6 in Italy after swapping positions with Russell, and a P7 in Monaco. That's not much to write home about, if you ask me. I'd say that if you put Mick Schumacher in that seat, he'd manage that too. Or even Antonelli. Okay, that's a bit much. If anything, with the W13 and W14, he was getting podiums and almost won a race. Well, let's look at qualifying then. He's been out-qualified 7-1 by his teammate. We know Russell earned himself the name Mr. Saturday back in the day when he was in a very poor Williams. But that number is significant. Lewis Hamilton was never known for his 1-lap pace, even if he is the record holder for most pole positions. A driver like Valtteri Bottas qualified in front of him plenty of times in the Mercedes dominant days. I can come up with a few reasons why Russell is getting the better out of him in qualifying. The most logical one is that he has booked himself out. If you're in a team you're leaving and the car isn't good enough for podiums, then I suppose it's hard to motivate yourself. I wonder, as I'm writing this, where that leaves all the keep pushing, never give up tropes that he always comes out with. Anyway, it's not the first time #blessed contradicts himself that way. Another reason could be that his age is starting to play a part in his performance. He might just be a tad slower, but he can compensate for that with racecraft and talent in the races. The reasons that he comes up with himself are pretty wild, but we'll come to that later. George Russell is the next leading man at Mercedes unless Max Verstappen suddenly joins. Then the Dutchman would be the leading man. That goes without saying. Hamilton will slowly be excluded from meetings, and that's only fair. You don't want a driver who's leaving to know more than necessary. Russell seems pretty confident at the moment, and besides getting startled by Alonso braking a wee bit, he hasn't done much wrong this season. He doesn't seem to gloat about him beating the record holder again after beating him in 2022 as well. He's in a good mood, does his interviews, qualifies well, and races to what the car is capable of. He didn't even mind giving up his P6 in Imola to get the fastest lap. I'm pretty impressed by that, to be honest. It shows maturity and composure. Nicely done, George. Nicely done. Hamilton has been around since 2007 in Formula 1 and has had a bunch of teammates. He didn't get along with some of them. In fact, he had weird fights with all of the good ones, now that I think of it. Big problems with Alonso, but that's well documented. No need to elaborate on that any further. He managed to fall out a bit with Jenson Button. I don't know Jenson Button personally, but he doesn't seem to be someone you fall out with. I might be a little biased because I loved reading his biography. Anyway, at one point Hamilton tweeted that Button had unfollowed him on Twitter and that was a shame. He thought they respected each other. Then he tweeted that Button had never followed him in the first place, so besides being weird, he was also wrong. Things got even worse when Hamilton suspected that McLaren was sabotaging him and he proceeded to post sim data on Twitter to prove his point. The team wasn't pleased with the competition being able to see that pretty useless data, and it showed what he was capable of when his head gets away with things. At Mercedes, he was united with Nico Rosberg, his old friend, but they fell out too. The suspicion and paranoia got so bad that the team of mechanics were swapped and a screen was placed between the two cars to prevent setups from being copied. And now, similar things are popping up. Lewis Hamilton has suggested a few things that are along the lines of what I just described. I'm getting my popcorn out. The man from Stevenage had an interview after qualifying with the lovely Natalie Pinkham in which he describes that he's happy with the bits that are being brought to the car by the people in the factory who are working so hard and that he was happy with that. He'll have a new front wing in the next race, which he didn't have this weekend, but Russell did. Then he talked about how competitive they were in practice sessions, but that was all gone at qualifying. He already knew that he would lose 2/10 in performance as soon as that quali starts, and he won't beat Russell in quali this season. He said that twice. He also had a bit of a pause and repeated twice that things looked good for the team, leaving out the part where that might be good for him. He's basically insinuating that something is done with his car just before qualifying to make him slower than Russell. He also left out that the new front wing was discussed and he thought it would be better if Russell had it. Those upgrades don't always work, and if you break one, a new one isn't available. So it's just him playing to his cult following again, and if he's serious, then his suspicious mind is playing a role again. Probably because he was on the good end of it at McLaren at the start of his career, and at Mercedes he was favoured too. And I don't blame Wolff for giving the best driver priority. It makes sense, as it makes sense now if they were doing that. If Hamilton was a confident, mentally strong champion, he wouldn't behave this way, and that's where his weakness lies. The weakness is his mentality. He was always finding excuses and conspiracies against him rather than improving himself and grabbing the problem by the horns. His desire to be perceived as the best and the most popular is making him desperate, and that's the opposite of what he's trying to achieve. All the neutral fans see right through this. His teammate sees through it, and Toto Wolff has always seen through it, but pampered him as a team boss does with his greatest talent. I have a funny feeling Toto Wolff is done with his shit. We can all sense it in the radios to Lewis, or the lack of soothing radios to Lewis nowadays. To this day I find it incredible that a man with so much talent and so much skill is so mentally unstable. If anything, being in this car, in a team he's leaving, allows him to prove his worth tenfold. Any result he gets now will be hailed. And all this talk about overcoming obstacles and hardship, and then he does this? Anyway, next year things need to change. Next year he'll be paired up with Formula 1's best qualifier in a team that sees the Monegasque as El Salvador, or whatever that is in Italian. Charles Leclerc is younger, he's settled in that team, speaks Italian, and understands that Ferrari is greater than him. Lewis Hamilton has created this aura about himself that goes beyond racing, and that means also beyond Ferrari. To this day I don't understand why Ferrari is spending all that money on a situation that can turn sour so quickly. The shenanigans I've handled in this video won't fly in Maranello, and he might be a hero for the tifosi now. They can switch in a heartbeat, as you can see by the hate Carlos Sainz is getting at times from the diehard Leclerc fans. In any case, it's one amazing dynamic I'll be following closely in 2025. It's one of the storylines that makes 2025 so exciting. How do you think Hamilton will behave at Ferrari next season? Leave a comment. For all the people that made it this far and aren't angry, subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.